Today you'll learn how we use on-page SEO to grow this page's organic search traffic by over 1,000%. I'm Nathan Gotch, the founder of Gotch SEO Academy, and I've led hundreds of successful SEO campaigns over the last decade. If you're excited to learn how to create pages that Google loves to rank, then like this video and let's get into it. Okay, so the keyword we're going to be looking at here is dentist, Jacksonville, Florida, or FL for short. So first thing I want to do is always start by looking at Google. There are a lot of SEO tools out there, and they certainly can give you a nice overview of the SERPs, but nothing beats just going right into Google and seeing with your own eyes what's really going on here. So right away, a few things to notice. Number one is we have local service ads. Okay, we got a block of local service ads. So already just this alone is going to decrease the potential CTR or organic click-through rate. Okay, so you have to consider this. Now, if I was working with the dentist here, I would absolutely make the recommendation that they consider investing in local service ads, because we see that it is highly prioritized here. And really at the end of the day, the goal of search marketing, not just SEO, like we want to be thinking about search marketing as a whole. The goal is to occupy as much real estate as possible so we can get as many clicks as possible. So this is a good place to start, okay? But let's go ahead and skip down to the next section here, which is going to be the local pack, okay? So notice a couple things about the local pack right away. The top three in the local pack just happen to all have Jacksonville in their business name. Not just that, they also have dentistry or dentist for short in their business name. Now, if you look throughout most local SERPs, this is very common now, and it works incredibly well. So, they do have a lot of reviews. They do have a lot of other good metrics, but this is something that is incredibly impactful, and it's just having a keyword-rich business name. So there's ways to do this to mitigate the risk of getting penalized. But the one thing you can do is you can get a DBA, or doing business as. So let's say your business name is kind of generic about dentistry. Well, you get a DBA where you live and you make it, Jacksonville Complete Dentistry. And that should mitigate the risk of being penalized. So just take note of this. It works incredibly well. But what I really want to focus on here is focusing on the kind of organic rankings here. All right. Now, once again, in addition to the local pack, in the organic rankings, having keyword-rich domain names works incredibly well. Take a look at the top three. We have Jax, we have Jax, and we have Jacksonville. Okay, so top three have the actual location in the domain. Okay, so if you're a dental practice here in Jacksonville and you want to try to rank, well, I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be incredibly difficult to beat these top three, because they have the most relevant domain imaginable. And so for you to try to beat them, you're gonna have to pull different levers to try to beat them. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm just saying it's very, very difficult. So keep that in mind. Okay, so look at this data. This data is directly from Rankability. I just exported it and put it into a Google Sheet. And a couple of things here. So first thing I want to see is, are there domains that are pure exact match that exists? And the answer is no. There's not a single domain ranking that has a pure exact match domain, which would be dentist, Jacksonville, Florida.com or FL.com. Okay, does not exist. So that one's irrelevant. Now, with that said, keep in mind, most have at least one or both of these critical parts of this keyword. So dentist or dental, you'll see that, almost every single top ranking result in the top 30 or so has that exact word in it, either dentist or dental. So, it's pretty hard to argue that you shouldn't have it, right? Like, you definitely should have dentist or dental in the domain if you plan on ranking in this location, okay? And really, any dentist across the United States, you should have dentist or dental in the domain name. I know that seems very simple, but believe it or not, we still have some that are not doing it, okay? Now, going back to here, the location you'll notice isn't as prevalent, but keep in mind, look at the ones that are doing the best. The ones that are doing the best in the top three have both of these. They've got a really, really good partial match domain. And I just cannot stress this enough. It works very, very well. And there's just so much evidence proving this. But just keep this in mind. And also keep in mind, if you're one of these domains that doesn't have these, it's going to be a tough road ahead. Okay. So you'll see, like, we do have these guys here that are doing pretty well. But sometimes, that might just be a unicorn, right? And we look at the other ones that are not, there's no consistency among those domains, right? The ones that tend to perform the best have the keywords, or at least some of the keywords in the domain. Okay. Now, other thing to notice too is that we have 100% of the top ranking results are home pages. Okay, so this is often the great debate: should I rank my home page or should I rank an internal page? In this day and age, I truly believe that it's best to have one website. If you're doing local, one website targeting one location and one kind of core service or services in that location. So if you're going after Jacksonville, just have a website that's just about Jacksonville. And so obviously the homepage would be built for Jacksonville dentist, which is the broadest term that captures the most traffic. But then you would have your secondary pages like Jacksonville emergency dentist, Jacksonville root canals. Like, you go through and you build out those secondary services. But it's all built around Jacksonville. That's the key. And if we go and look at any of these sites, like this number one, you'll see that their whole site is built around Jacksonville, right? And we go down here, you see it's Jacksonville on the homepage. We go down, I'm sure their address is down here as well. They've got a big map. Once again, Jacksonville. So, and then even in the footer here, Jacksonville. All right. So the point is that building the whole site around that core location is the most effective strategy that you can deploy. What you don't want to do is try to rank in a bunch of different cities on one domain. If you're really serious about ranking in one specific city, then this is the path that you have to go. And the evidence is here, right? We've got 100% home pages that are ranking here, with the exclusion of the directories, which I just got rid of, which is like Yelp and a bunch of other ones, but they're actually not even doing that well. These localized businesses are actually beating Yelp and those directories. Okay. So let's keep going here. So we've got the domain. We know keyword rich domain is effective for on-page SEO. Now, the next part of this is the title tag. Okay. There are certain elements of on-page SEO that are weighted much heavier. So the domain and your URL structure is really, really important, but also your title tag. Your title tag is hands down one of the most important elements on the page. And if you don't get it right, you just will not rank. There is no way that you would rank number one for this keyword without having the keywords in the title tag. It is literally that simple. The only way that ever happens is if you're competing on a really, really uncompetitive keyword. You might be able to get away with it. But when you start going into any level of competition, there's zero chance that you'll rank. Okay, so now looking at the exact match phrase, how many of these competitors actually have that exact match phrase in the title tag? And a high percentage does, right? If you exclude the comma, there's a good amount of competitors that have that kind of exact match phrase or a very, very close variation of it in the title tag. Now, with that said, it is not necessary to do that. The time that it is necessary to do it is when you have a domain that is not keyword rich. Okay, so if you have a domain, like if we go over here and look at this one here, it looks like Mandarin Smiles, okay? They do not have a keyword rich domain for this location. So it would be wise for them to include the keyword rich element, that keyword rich title tag, because they need to supplement the lack of relevance, right? So you're pulling these different levers depending on your situation. So for these guys over here, they don't need to go super aggressive with on-page SEO because the domain is so highly relevant that it just kind of pushes them over the finish line much easier, right? They can get away with more. They don't need to be as optimized because domain is that kind of catalyst for relevance. But when you don't have that relevance, you have to go to the different areas on the page to build that relevance. At the end of the day, the goal is to be the most relevant page imaginable. Okay, that's what we're trying to go for. So we know that having the exact keyword phrase in the title tag is not a necessity. It is not a necessity, but it certainly can help you. But we do know, looking at when you split this term up into the separate things, which is the service and then the location, it's pretty overwhelming evidence that you should have both of them in the title tag in some variation. Okay, so the goal here is in your title tag is to at least, no matter however you go about doing it, make sure you have dentist or dental, and then make sure you have the location in that title tag. And you'll see there's a bunch of different variations of this. Like they have Jacksonville Family Dentistry, and then these ones have, Dental Center of Jacksonville. Google's really good at knowing that this is all kind of the same stuff. Okay, so you don't need to be so literal with the exact keyword phrase. You can mix it up, you can slice and dice it however you want. But what really matters is that it appears in the title. That's the number one thing that matters. Okay, so just a quick review here. We know that 86% of the competitors are using a partial match domain. So the evidence is there. We should try to have some sort of keyword rich domain if we want to achieve maximum performance for SEO. We know that 100% of the local competitors are ranking with a homepage. Once again, the reason why is because these domains are built specifically for Jacksonville. So if you want to be able to compete, you're probably also going to have a domain that's specific to Jacksonville. 93% of competitors have a variation of the primary keyword phrase in the title tag. Okay, so having at least some version, some variation of that keyword in the title tag is critical. 93% of the competitors have at least one H1 tag, and I'll be showing you more about this here in a second. And 82% of the competitors have a variation of the primary keyword phrase in the H1 tag. Okay, so now I'm actually going to show you some real life examples of this, of some domains that are not performing as well, and we're going to try to improve their performance. Okay, we're going to start with this one, and right away, before I even talk about on-page SEO, we can first just begin by talking about the general user experience and design of this website. Okay, and we have to remember that the purpose of any website, especially on a local level, is to capture leads. That is the number one goal. We are trying to generate leads. And with some exceptions, but for most local service businesses, most local business, we're trying to generate leads. And so the way that this is structured is not going to really fulfill that super well. And the thing is, this menu, first of all, very overwhelming, needs to be restructured, needs to be consolidated. But more importantly, we need to shift the priorities here. And the priority is either getting calls or getting leads. So this phone number is right here, but it should really be pushed way up above the fold, and it should be above the navigation. Okay, so I'm not gonna go through and kind of hit on this. This site needs to, let's just say it needs to be redesigned for many reasons, okay? And on top of it, if you're gonna have a phone number on your website, it has to be clickable, okay? Because someone on mobile, they're going to try to click on that phone number. It's not going to work. So they would have to open up another browser window and try to remember it. And your conversions will be decimated if you do this. So it has to be clickable. Okay. So at a very high level, there's this one, I'm not going to get into it, but it just needs to be modernized and improved. Okay. And you can always look at the top competitors to get a good idea of like, okay, this is generally, sites that we know, are performing well in Google. And if they're performing well in Google, that's typically a signal that the user experience is at least sufficient to let them stay there, okay? Because we know that Google uses user signals on Google Chrome to inform rankings in Google, okay? So we know this. Now, if we look at the top ranking result, you'll see that it's probably a pretty different experience, right? I still don't think it's sufficient in many ways. I think it could be improved, but it's much better than the previous one. Okay, so a little bit more modern. I think it could be improved for CRO purposes, but for the sake of argument here, much more improved than this one here. Okay, so let's go over here and look at a few kind of on-page SEO elements. All right, so at a very basic level, they've got the title pretty squared away. Okay, they've got the keyword variation in the title, but then they've got their phone number in the title. Now, this might seem like this is one of those things that like seems like a good idea, but it can actually hurt your SEO performance. And the reason is because if you put your phone number in the title, there could be a segment of searchers that actually call that phone number. And if they call the phone number, you're not getting any benefit organically. And what we really want them to do is click on your listing, go to your website, then call your phone number. Because what occurs is, okay, we get that CTR benefit, so we're getting the click, then we're getting them to our site, and then they're also clicking on the phone number and calling you, or they're submitting a lead form. We're getting that goal completion. So all of these positive signals we need to have on our website. Okay, it's really critical. And then obviously, the meta description is extremely over optimized and we need to be refined. And then finally, looking at the keywords here, this is old school SEO. This is many, many years ago. We used to inject these keywords into the meta keywords section. No one uses these anymore to do well, right? They don't benefit you. Google likely ignores them, even possibly might maybe demote you because of the over optimization. Okay. And so if we look at some of the top competitors, we'll look at them. I would almost suspect that they are not doing any. Okay. So yeah, they're not using any meta keywords and they're ranking number one. Okay. So this is that's a very old school tactic. And I would highly recommend, if this was my client, first of all, clean up the title tag, eliminate the phone number, write a unique meta description, and then eliminate all these meta keywords. Just like we're talking about, 3 minutes of work here that could have a significant effect on performance. All right, now we're going to go into the headings. Looking at this, even the heading structure needs to be reworked, okay? Because a good structure will have the H1 tag as the first heading on the page. The H1 tag should be the very first heading, and the H1 tag is a critical tag for performance. We must have our core keyword in that H1 tag. You can style it and make it look different on the site, but structurally, like the way that it looks in the HTML and the code, we want that H1 tag to be the first tag, okay? It's critical. So in this scenario, it just being blank, we're literally not getting any benefit from this at all. Okay, so you need to restructure these, put the core keyword, like you take this Jacksonville Cosmetic and Family Dentist and wrap the H1 around that. And obviously don't use your precious heading tags for useless things that don't build relevance. So like welcome, we definitely don't want that in our first H2. So we would want, that H1, the H2, I would say as far as headings, those are probably your two most critical headings on the page. Like that first H1, that first H2, you got to get those squared away. Okay, so simple, like we're talking about very, very simple on-page SEO fixes here that could have big results if you did them. And we're talking maybe 5 minutes of work, okay? Not even talking about NLP optimization. We're just talking about the basics. All right, let's go to another one. So this one here, a little bit better design. It's got some good, calls to action, some good stuff going. But once again, unfortunately, the phone number is not clickable. Okay, so and in fact, they have a mobile icon here, but the ironic part of this is that on mobile, you wouldn't be able to actually click on the phone number and call them. So they don't even realize, but they're actually missing out on new patients just by not having this done. And then on top of it, another tricky thing here, and this is one of those things, once again, like the phone number and the title tag, that seems like this is a good idea, but it actually isn't when it comes to conversions, is having the social media icons above the fold, okay? Because we don't, the goal of the website is not to get them to like our Facebook page or follow us on Instagram. That's not what we're trying to do. The goal of the website is we want them to call us or submit a lead form, right? So we can grow the business. Likes on Facebook and followers on Instagram do not pay the bills. So we do not want to prioritize that above the fold. Above the fold is for conversions only. So if we click on this, all that will happen is, all of a sudden I'm on Facebook and now I'm watching cat videos and it's all over, right? So the possibility of conversion is basically, zero at that point. So take these social icons, put them down in the footer. Put them in the footer and do not prioritize them whatsoever. Okay, so very simple fix. It can have a big effect on conversion rates. Okay, now everything else to me looks pretty solid. Obviously, I won't get into the granular elements of this, but overall pretty good. Okay, now let's look at the on-page SEO elements. Once again, Jacksonville Dentist, very good. They've got the core keyword in there. I think they're being a little aggressive, right? Because we've got dentists and we've got dentistry and we've got dentists. I don't believe that's necessary. I don't think you need to be that aggressive. I think you can just have, downtown Jacksonville Dentists. You could add near me in there if you'd like. I don't think that's a problem. But aside from just slamming dentist 3 times in the title tag, you're definitely leaning towards the over optimization territory. Google is good enough now to know that those are all the same thing. You don't need to mention it 3 times. Just mention it 1 time and that's it. Mention the location, mention your core service offering, and then maybe your brand name, and that's it. Okay, you don't need to go overboard. Looking at this, everything else looks good, but then the headings, Once again, similar to the other one, the first heading is the phone number, the second heading is an email, the third heading is not targeting the keyword that we want to go after. And in fact, if we look at all the headings, I don't think that Jacksonville is mentioned once in any of these headings. So, these are all highly relevant things, highly relevant service offerings and all this stuff. That's all great, but we're not mentioning our core service area, our core location that we're trying to serve. And once again, this page is missing an H1 tag. So we need to have the H1 tag. And so this would just need to be restructured. Like instead of making the phone number an H4, I would just make it a paragraph tag that's styled with CSS. Okay. So we're not, adding things into heading tags, which are critical, that are not helping us build relevance for SEO purposes. Okay. Another one here, this will be the last one I'll look at here, which we'll go ahead and just see. Once again, a really solid design. They've got some good calls to action above the fold. The phone number is clickable. That's great. Schedule an appointment. Yeah, this is all, I think this site's pretty solid. It's got some, I think it could probably be maybe just redesigned slightly to kind of make it look a little more modern. But overall, I think it can get the job done. But let's look at the on-page SEO elements. Once again, this looks pretty good. Go-to dentist in Jacksonville. I don't mind that. That looks great. Meta description looks good. Everything else looks good here. And then we'll look at the headings. Same situation as the previous two. Need restructuring of the headings, right? So all of these are wrapped in heading tags when they should really just be paragraph tags. There's not an H1 on here, but they did mention the keyword and their kind of core keyword here in this H2. But if you look at the structure of this, like Google crawling this is going through all these different headings trying to find out what this is about, and finally it gets to this H2 down here. This should really be the H1, push that way up here, and we've got the H1 above the fold. So then we'll just go look at a site that's actually performing well for this. So Jack's Family Dentistry, and right away we see that we have that perfect keyword in the H1, and then we've got the H2s and then the H3, right? This is a perfect setup, simple, not over optimized, and using headings the right way. And most importantly, prioritizing those the keywords. So who's ever doing SEO here is definitely doing this the right way. But very, very simple changes we're talking about here. Just some slight modifications to restructure the heading tags, prioritize the keywords in the H1, actually have an H1, and will have huge impact on performance. Okay, so you could theoretically try to do NLP optimization without using a tool. So you could export all of these competitors and then put them in a chat GPT and say, give me the NLP keywords for all these competitors. That would probably take you a solid 30 minutes to possibly maybe an hour just to import and export all that data. But I'll tell you, with this content optimizer and rankability, you can run a keyword through here, and we've tested this. This takes usually a minute or less to collect all of the NLP keywords, which is, NLP stands for natural language processing, which really, if we eliminate the geeky phrase, it's really just relevant keywords that your competitors are using, or relevant topics that your competitors are using, okay? And it's really important because it will help you build highly relevant pages. So the way that this works is we look at the top 30 competitors for this keyword phrase, and we get all of their topics. We extract all of their topics, okay? And as a result, we're able to see every single thing that they're talking about. Now we'll go into the optimizer, all right? So what we're looking at here is I imported one of the competitors in here, and you can actually go over here to the URL extraction. You just go and import them. And that's why when you do an import, sometimes it looks like this. It can be a little messy, but you can also just write it from scratch in here. Now, what we want to do to properly do this the right way is we want to look at these topics and try to take one of these topics and put it into the content. Don't view these as okay, I need to talk about new patients here and just look for areas to inject it. Really what you want to do is look for areas to build new sections on this page, okay? So for example, our team. If we look at this, a lot of the top competitors mention they have sections about their team, the people that you're actually going to be working with when you go to the dentist, okay? And that makes a lot of sense. So just adding a section about your team here could have a nice impact to improve relevance, okay? Then going down here and looking at some other things that are missing, all right? So once again, dental team, tooth extraction, if that's a service that you offer, it should certainly be here on the homepage. It should be discussed. Dental insurance, that's a really important topic. It should have a section specifically about dental insurance, a section specifically about dental emergencies, okay? So this is all that we're doing here is we're looking for these gaps in the content. And the better we do this, the better we fill these gaps, the more relevant of a page we're going to have. And funny enough, even the top competitors here, I would argue they have a lot of room for improvement, right? Like their scores are not as good as they could be, which means they're actually missing out on a lot of organic traffic through long tail searches. And this is the thing that a lot of people understand is like, they think by optimizing for NLP, it will help lift the main keyword, right? So it's going to lift the main, which is true. But what actually happens is you're building more relevance on the page. And when you build more relevance on the page and you have these topics on there, you actually start to attract more long tail traffic. You start to get more traffic and your keyword footprint starts to grow, right? As your keyword footprint starts to grow on this page, you get more organic traffic, you get more leads, you get more patients, okay? So that's actually the huge benefit. And so this is the way you need to be thinking about it. Now, if I was building this page from scratch, I would do this very differently. Okay, so I would just go ahead and eliminate this. And let's say I needed to re-optimize the page. So first thing I do is I would copy these keywords. So I just go into ChatGPT and put a very simple prompt in. Always start with an outline. Okay, create an SEO content outline for the keyword, and then you paste the NLP keywords in there from Rankability. Okay, and then you just go ahead and run that. Okay, and then within just a minute or so, you're gonna have a nice outline to work with. Now, what you could do is you could theoretically just take this outline and then you could put it into Rankability like so. And what this will do is, first of all, it's highly optimized because it includes a lot of the kind of keyword phrases in there. But if you're going to be working with a writer, you would just go ahead and just take this and you could share this specifically with the writer, and then they could go through and write the content, right? But let's say you have a smaller budget and you don't want to invest in a writer. Okay, well, good news. We can create a first draft with ChatGPT, okay? And by the way, this function is gonna be native to Rankability coming up here very soon, but just showing you kind of like the different process, but this will actually, you're gonna be able to do this inside of Rankability. But the point is ChatGPT, you can go right back in and then just have it write it for you. So then just say, write the SEO content asset based on this outline, and then make sure you include the optimal word count, which I just pulled directly from Rankability. Okay, so then once the draft is done, we're gonna go over here, go ahead and get rid of this, and then we're gonna go ahead and redo this and just paste in the draft, and we'll see how we did on that first run. So on the first draft, already really, really well optimized, so that's great. But remember, what I'm saying here is draft, okay? This is, the word that I'm using is critical here. This is a first draft. You should not just take this and publish it on your website. This is just the first draft. And keep in mind, you also have to take this content and put it on your website, and it has to be within a proper design that can actually convert. But at least for the copywriting, we're just beginning here, and then you're gonna work either with an editor or any type of human to go through and make this better, right? Make it better, humanize it. Now there's some tricks to this, okay? One thing you can do is you can go to a site like this. Let's say it was for this website in particular, and we could go to our practice, right? And we're gonna open this up, and I'm actually gonna pretend like I'm gonna print this, but I'm actually just gonna save it as a PDF. Okay, so now that I've saved about 3 different pages about that dental clinic, now I'm gonna go over here and I'm actually gonna upload these specifically to ChatGPT, okay? And this is just assuming like if this was my client, go and do this. So we're gonna upload these, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna have it revise this content to personalize it and make it unique to this brand. Okay, and then what we have here is a very different draft that now actually includes some personalization and some uniqueness and some originality into this content. And you can just keep doing this over and over. Keep taking pages from the site and uploading it, and it's gonna use that information to make it highly relevant. And remember, the key here is it's not whether we use AI content or not. That's not the issue. The issue is the originality and the quality of that content. And so what we've done here is we basically checked off the originality component now. And then what I would personally recommend is obviously take this content, and still it's got some kind of citations and stuff and that you have to remove, but we'll go ahead and put that one back into rankability. And what I would do from this point is I would have an editor, a human editor, go through here and just clean it up. Just have them clean it up, make it better, and then it'll be in a sufficient place where we can take that content and we can re-upload it to the site. And so really within just a few short minutes, we've really basically revised this content, optimized it. We've done all the critical work. And if you look at this, going back to the competitors, you'll see that by having a 77 means we have by far the most relevant page among the competitors. So that means just by doing that alone, our performance will significantly improve. And we have overwhelming data proving this, and it just works, okay? It just works, especially when you have the business set up the way that it should be, right? You've got a nice keyword-rich domain, you're actually located in that city, and you have the most relevant page. I mean, it's pretty hard to lose if you do that, okay? And you take care of all the other stuff we mentioned before. So that's really on-page SEO in a nutshell. So taking care of the basics, right? Number one, we want the keyword in the domain, we want it in the title, we want it in the H1, and we maybe want a variation in the H2. If you can just get those basics squared away, you're gonna be better than 75% of businesses. But to go to the next level, you're going to need to use NLP to really take this to the next level. And once again, using a tool like Rankability is a very small investment to save a massive, massive amount of time. This is how you go to that next level. This is how you go to the next level. And now you're not just doing basic on-page SEO. Now you're doing expert level on-page SEO. And this is the stuff that I use. I personally use this stuff every single day. I use this tool every single day myself in our campaigns. And that's because it works. Okay, so this is how you go about doing on-page SEO. Hope this was helpful. And if you like this video, obviously please like it. And of course, as always, please subscribe. So thank you so much for watching.